You think you know the people around you. But what if the person closest to you is waging a silent psychological war? From gaslighting to love bombing, manipulation is an invisible weapon used to control, confuse, and break you. Today, we are exposing the 52 most dangerous dark psychology tactics used by narcissists and manipulators. By the end of this video, you won't just see the red flags, you'll know exactly how to disarm them. Welcome to the guide that might just save your sanity. 1. The geometry of manipulation. Triangulation. Triangulation is a sophisticated and calculated manipulative strategy, where a narcissist introduces a third party into a dyadic relationship to manufacture tension, jealousy, and insecurity. Instead of addressing issues directly with you, the manipulator pulls in an outsider, whether it is an ex-partner, a family member, a colleague, or even a complete stranger, to shift the power dynamics decisively in their favor. This tactic is not merely about making you jealous. It is a strategic psychological move designed to validate the narcissist's false sense of superiority while simultaneously devaluing your worth. By creating a scenario where you feel you must compete for their attention, they force you into a state of constant emotional instability and anxiety. The goal is to make you feel replaceable and eager to win back their approval, which distracts you from the actual problems within the relationship. In romantic contexts, this often manifests as the narcissist making constant, unfavorable comparisons between you and an ex-partner. They might casually mention how their previous lover never complained about their behavior, or how a new coworker understands their complex genius in ways you do not. These comments are rarely random. They are precision strikes designed to make you feel inadequate, uncertain, and desperate for validation. However, triangulation is pervasive beyond romance. In toxic family systems, a narcissistic parent will often pit siblings against one another, designating one as the golden child and the other as the scapegoat. This effectively destroys sibling bonds and ensures the parent remains the central hub of power. In the workplace, a manipulative boss might spread misinformation to ensure colleagues view each other as threats rather than allies, preventing the formation of a unified front that could challenge their authority. This manipulation is devastatingly effective because it hijacks your fundamental need for belonging and security. When you feel you are fighting for your spot in someone's life, your emotional energy becomes entirely entangled in their web of control. You stop looking at the manipulator's bad behavior and start looking at the third party as the enemy. To break free from this toxic geometry, you must refuse to participate in the competition. Recognizing that the triangle is a fabrication allows you to step back. When they bring up another person to provoke you, do not take the bait. Confront the manipulator directly about their behavior, rather than focusing on the third party. By refusing to fight for a prize that is not worth winning, you dismantle the triangle and strip the narcissist of the power they sought to gain through division. 2. The addiction of affection. Love bombing. Love bombing is an intense and overwhelming manipulation tactic used primarily at the beginning of a relationship to gain total psychological control. It is characterized by excessive displays of affection, attention, and praise that feel incredibly intoxicating. The narcissist will bombard you with constant communication, extravagant gifts, and premature promises of a shared future. You are made to feel chosen, special, and understood in a way you never have been before. This phase is often described by victims as finding their soulmate or a connection that feels fated. However, beneath this surface of adoration lies a dark agenda, the creation of immediate emotional dependency. The narcissist is not building a genuine connection. They are grooming you to become addicted to the dopamine and oxytocin rush their attention provides. At the height of love bombing, the dynamic feels euphoric and flawless. They might text you hundreds of times a day, insist they have never felt this way about anyone else, and mirror your deepest values and interests to appear as your perfect match. This is a process of idealization, where they place you on a pedestal not to admire you, but to secure your compliance. Once you are emotionally invested, and your defenses are lowered, the dynamic abruptly shifts. The compliments stop, the text becomes sporadic, and the warmth turns to cold indifference. This sudden withdrawal is the devaluation phase, and it leaves you confused, anxious, and desperate to understand what you did wrong. You begin to chase the validation they once gave freely, effectively handing them the keys to your self-esteem. The psychological impact of this cycle is strikingly similar to drug addiction. You find yourself chasing the initial high of the relationship, willing to tolerate mistreatment and jump through hoops just to get a glimpse of the person they pretended to be. You begin to believe that if you just behave perfectly, the love-bombing phase will return. Recognizing this tactic is critical for self-preservation. Real, healthy love is consistent, slow-burning, and respectful of boundaries. It does not rush intimacy or overwhelm you with grandiosity. If a relationship feels too good to be true and moves at a breakneck speed, it is likely a trap. True security comes from steady trust built over time, not from an avalanche of affection designed to blind you to the red flags of abuse. When the mask slips, believe the behavior you see, not the promises you heard. 3. The erosion of reality. Gaslighting. Gaslighting is a form of psychological abuse and manipulation designed to systematically dismantle your perception of reality, your memories, and eventually, your sanity. It is an insidious process that happens gradually, often starting with small, seemingly harmless denials that slowly escalate into a total distortion of the truth. The narcissist or manipulator will persistently deny things they have said or done, twist facts to suit their narrative, and accuse you of being overly sensitive or irrational when you bring up valid concerns. Over time, this repeated distortion of the truth erodes your confidence in your own mind, leaving you dependent on the manipulator to define what is real and what is not. The ultimate goal of gaslighting is to gain absolute control by rendering you unable to trust your own judgment. The process often begins subtle. You might recall a specific comment they made, and they will insist it never happened, perhaps even acting concerned for your memory, or claiming you are imagining things. As it progresses, the tactics become more aggressive. They might claim they never made a promise that you distinctly remember, or they might dismiss your emotional reactions as crazy or hysterical. They use your confusion as a weapon, dismissing your concerns as overreactions to make you feel small and unreasonable. Eventually, the victim reaches a state of self-doubt so profound that they apologize for things that were not their fault, simply because they no longer trust their own assessment of the situation. The abuser becomes the sole arbiter of truth in the relationship. Gaslighting is particularly dangerous because it isolates you mentally and emotionally. As you lose faith in your own cognitive faculties, you become less likely to challenge the abuser or seek help from others, fearing that no one will believe you or that you truly are losing your mind. Breaking free requires a commitment to re-anchoring yourself in objective reality, documenting conversations, keeping a detailed journal of events, and seeking external perspectives from trusted friends or professionals are essential steps. These records serve as concrete evidence against the gaslighter's fabrications. Once you stop accepting their false version of events and stand firm in your own experiences, their power begins to weaken. Their control relies entirely on your self-doubt. Reclaiming your trust in yourself and your memories is the antidote to their psychological poison. 4. The silent punishment. The silent treatment. The silent treatment is a weaponized form of emotional manipulation, where a narcissist deliberately ignores you, withholds communication, and refuses to acknowledge your existence to punish and control you. Unlike a healthy cooling-off period where partners respectfully take space to de-escalate a conflict, the silent treatment is punitive, intentional, and cruel. It is designed to provoke anxiety, insecurity, and a profound sense of powerlessness in the victim. By cutting off all verbal and nonverbal contact, The manipulator forces you into a state of emotional starvation. You are left in a void, unsure of what you did wrong, how long the silence will last, or if the relationship is effectively over. This ambiguity is a torture tactic meant to break your spirit and force you into submission. Physiologically, being ignored activates the anterior cingulate cortex, the same area of the brain that registers physical pain. The narcissist knows this instinctively. They use silence to make you feel invisible and insignificant. While you spiral into panic, replaying every interaction to find the cause of their withdrawal, they maintain a position of absolute power and indifference. They may walk past you as if you are furniture, look through you, and ignore direct questions with a cold stare. Eventually, the distress becomes so unbearable that you may find yourself apologizing for things you didn't do, just to end the silence and restore a sense of connection. This is exactly the outcome they desire. Your desperation validates their superiority and reinforces their control over your emotional state. The cycle often ends with them benevolently deciding to speak to you again, creating a rush of relief that mimics the resolution of a crisis. This reinforcement strengthens the trauma bond, making you grateful for the return of basic communication that should never have been withdrawn in the first place. You begin to walk on eggshells, suppressing your own needs to avoid triggering another episode of abandonment. To break this cycle, you must stop chasing their approval. When they go silent, do not beg, plead, or apologize to fill the void. Instead, treat their silence as a decision they have made that you will not participate in. Go about your life, focus on your own well-being, and refuse to let their withdrawal dictate your self-worth. By removing the reaction they crave, you neutralize the weapon. 5. The mirror of blame, projection. Projection is a psychological defense mechanism and manipulation tactic where a narcissist denies their own negative traits, behaviors, or impulses and attributes them to you. Instead of taking responsibility for their flaws, mistakes, or toxic actions, they shift the burden onto the victim, making it seem as though you are the one with the problem. This serves a dual purpose. It absolves the narcissist of accountability, while simultaneously keeping you on the defensive. A narcissist who is habitually dishonest will frequently accuse you of lying or hiding things. A partner who is unfaithful will be irrationally jealous and accuse you of cheating without evidence. If they are manipulative and controlling, they will paint you as the one who is trying to dominate the relationship. This tactic is highly effective because it creates immediate confusion and distraction. When you are falsely accused of something heinous, your natural instinct is to defend yourself and prove your innocence. You become so consumed with refuting their baseless claims that you fail to notice that the accusation is actually a confession of their own behavior. You are trapped in a false narrative designed to keep the spotlight off the narcissist's wrongdoing. The more you argue and try to explain yourself, the more they double down, using your emotional reaction as proof of your instability or guilt. It is a form of psychological warfare that distorts reality and leaves you questioning your own character, wondering if there is some truth to their claims. The danger of projection lies in its ability to slowly rewrite your self-image. If you are told often enough that you are selfish, angry, or untrustworthy, you may begin to internalize these labels, even when they are completely foreign to your nature. The narcissist is essentially using you as a trash can for their own shame and dysfunction. To counter projection, you must detach from their narrative. Do not waste energy trying to prove them wrong, as they are not interested in the truth, only in deflection. Instead, observe their accusations as information about who they are. When they accuse you of something you know is false, recognize that they are revealing their own hidden actions. By refusing to accept the projection, you keep the toxic traits where they belong, with the manipulator. 6. The Art of Deflection. Blame shifting. Blame shifting is a pervasive manipulation tactic used by narcissists to evade responsibility for their actions by redirecting fault onto the victim. In the narcissist's world, they are infallible, and any error, hurt, or failure must be the result of someone else's incompetence or malice. No matter what occurs, The narrative is twisted until you are the one left apologizing. If they break a promise, they claim it is because you didn't remind them. If they lash out in anger, they insist it is because you provoked them with your tone or behavior. The goal is to maintain their false image of perfection while burdening you with the guilt and responsibility for the relationship's dysfunction. This tactic often utilizes a strategy known as DARVO: deny, attack, and reverse victim and offender. First, they deny the behavior occurred. Then, they attack you for bringing it up. Finally, they reverse the roles so that they are the victim of your unreasonable demands, and you are the offender for hurting their feelings. Over time, this constant reversal conditions you to believe that you are inherently flawed and that everything going wrong is your fault. You begin to self-censor, walking on eggshells to avoid triggering any situation where blame could be cast. You might find yourself thinking, if I just communicated better, or if I was just less sensitive, not realizing that the game is rigged so that you can never win. Blame shifting destroys your sense of reality and self-worth. It makes you question your own perceptions and creates a toxic cycle where you are constantly striving to fix yourself to please someone who refuses to look in the mirror. The most effective way to break free from this dynamic is to stop accepting the blame they hand you. A healthy relationship involves mutual accountability, where both parties own their mistakes. A narcissist is incapable of this. When they try to shift blame, do not engage in endless explanations or defenses. State your truth clearly once, and then disengage. Understand that their refusal to accept fault is a reflection of their pathological need for control, not a reflection of your character. You are not responsible for their actions, and their inability to apologize is their deficit, not yours. 7. The weaponization of conscience. Guilt tripping. Guilt tripping is a powerful and pervasive form of emotional blackmail where a narcissist exploits your empathy, conscience, and sense of responsibility to control your behavior. They twist situations to make you feel like you owe them something, even when you have done nothing wrong. By portraying themselves as the sacrificing martyr and you as the ungrateful beneficiary, they manipulate you into complying with their demands out of a sense of obligation. Their goal is to make you feel bad enough about yourself that you will tolerate mistreatment or prioritize their needs above your own to alleviate the discomfort of guilt. This tactic often manifests in phrases like, "After everything I've done for you, this is how you treat me," or "I guess I just don't matter to you anymore." These statements are not genuine expressions of hurt. They are calculated maneuvers to override your boundaries. Guilt tripping is especially effective against empathetic people who fear being seen as selfish or unkind. The narcissist knows that if they can make you feel like you are hurting them, you will likely back down. They might bring up past favors, exaggerate their sacrifices, or blame you for their own poor life choices to keep you tethered to them. For example, they might blame their financial struggles on the fact that they spent money on you years ago, turning a gift into a permanent debt you can never repay. The insidious nature of guilt tripping is that it converts your compassion into a cage. You end up questioning your own decisions, wondering if you really are being selfish for saying no to an unreasonable request. You may stay in toxic situations far longer than you should simply because you feel too guilty to leave or abandon them. To counter this, you must recognize that guilt is not a valid form of currency in a healthy relationship. You do not owe anyone your autonomy or happiness. When someone tries to guilt trip you, remind yourself that setting boundaries is not an act of cruelty. Healthy people respect limits. Manipulators resent them because they impede control. Refuse to accept the debt they are trying to impose on you. Your obligation is to your own well-being, not to the endless emotional demands of a narcissist. 8. The professional victim. Victim playing. Victim playing is a strategic manipulation tactic where a narcissist adopts a persona of helplessness or persecution to gain sympathy, evade accountability, and control the narrative. Instead of admitting to their mistakes or toxic behavior, they reframe every situation so that they appear to be the one who has been wronged. This allows them to shift the focus away from their aggression and onto their supposed suffering. Even when they are clearly the instigator of conflict, they will twist the story to make themselves look like the injured party, forcing you into the role of the aggressor or the savior. This tactic is designed to exploit your empathy. If you confront them about their bad behavior, they might dissolve into tears and talk about how hard their life has been, how everyone abandons them, or how they are simply misunderstood. Suddenly, instead of holding them accountable, you find yourself comforting them and apologizing for upsetting them. They weaponize their past traumas, whether real or fabricated, to excuse their present abuse. They might say, "I can't help it because of what I went through," effectively shutting down any criticism. This creates a distorted dynamic where the actual victim is forced to nurture the abuser, and the abuser is shielded from any consequences. Victim playing often goes hand in hand with guilt tripping. The narcissist paints a picture of the world being against them, and if you don't support them unconditionally, you are just another person who is treating them unfairly. This traps you in a cycle of trying to prove your loyalty and kindness. Breaking free requires you to separate their emotions from the facts. You can acknowledge their feelings without accepting their excuses. It is crucial to remain focused on the specific behavior you are addressing and not let their pity play derail the conversation. Remember, true victims seek healing and resolution. Narcissists use victimhood as a permanent shield to protect their ego and maintain control over those around them. You are not responsible for fixing a person who uses their pain as a license to inflict pain on others. Stay focused on the facts and refuse to be emotionally hijacked. 9. The vacuum effect. Hoovering. Hoovering is a manipulation tactic named after the Hoover vacuum cleaner, describing the narcissist's attempts to suck you back into the relationship after you have withdrawn, set boundaries, or ended the connection. This usually occurs when the narcissist senses that you are pulling away or moving on with your life. It is not driven by genuine love, remorse, or a desire for reconciliation, but by a panic over losing their source of narcissistic supply, the attention, validation, and emotional energy you provide. Their goal is to regain control and drag you back into the toxic cycle of abuse. The tactics used in hoovering can range from overwhelmingly sweet to deeply manipulative. They might send unexpected messages claiming they miss you, love you, or have finally realized their mistakes. They may promise that they have changed, started therapy, or had a spiritual awakening. If positive reinforcement and nostalgia fail, they might escalate to negative tactics or manufacturing crises. They might fake an illness, a family emergency, or a mental health breakdown to trigger your savior complex and force contact. They know exactly what buttons to push to make you feel guilty for maintaining your distance. Phrases like "I can't live without you" or "you are the only one who understands me" are common hooks designed to reel you back in. What makes hoovering so dangerous is that it preys on your hope and empathy. You want to believe that the person you cared for has finally seen the light. However, hoovering is always a temporary performance. Once you are back under their control, the mask slips, and the abuse often returns with greater intensity to punish you for leaving in the first place. The only effective defense against hoovering is maintaining strict no contact. This means blocking their number, social media, and email, and refusing to engage with any messages that slip through. Any response, even a negative one, gives them the supply they crave and signals that they can still get to you. By remaining unresponsive, you deny them the power to restart the cycle and protect your hard-won freedom. 10. The wall of silence. Stonewalling. Stonewalling is a severe form of psychological manipulation, where a person completely shuts down during a conflict, refusing to communicate, cooperate, or acknowledge the other person's presence. Unlike the silent treatment, which acts as a punishment, stonewalling typically occurs in the middle of a discussion or argument when the manipulator wants to avoid accountability. The narcissist effectively builds a metaphorical wall between themselves and you, rendering resolution impossible. They may stare blankly, turn away, physically leave the room, or busy themselves with trivial tasks while you are trying to speak to them. This behavior conveys a message of utter contempt. Your thoughts, feelings, and presence are not worth their attention. The primary goal of stonewalling is to evade accountability and maintain control. By refusing to engage, the narcissist prevents you from expressing your grievances or holding them responsible for their actions. It forces you to expend enormous amounts of emotional energy trying to get a response, leaving you exhausted and desperate. Physiologically, this behavior triggers a state of flooding in the victim, an overwhelming wash of stress hormones that causes heart rate escalation and panic. You may find yourself pleading, crying, or getting angry just to get a reaction, which the narcissist then uses to label you as hysterical, unstable, or overreacting. Stonewalling is destructive because it denies the basic human need for connection and resolution. It leaves issues festering and erodes the foundation of trust in the relationship. It conditions you to suppress your concerns to avoid triggering their shutdown, creating a one-sided dynamic where you give and they withhold. To deal with stonewalling, you must stop trying to break down the wall. Do not chase them or escalate your own emotions to force engagement, as this is what they want. Instead, disengage calmly. State that you are willing to talk when they are ready to participate respectfully, and then walk away to regulate your own emotions. By refusing to play their game of cat and mouse, you protect your own peace of mind. If stonewalling is a chronic pattern, it is a major red flag of emotional abuse. 11. The art of shrinking you. Minimization. Minimization is a pervasive psychological reduction strategy employed by narcissists to systematically invalidate your internal reality and emotional experience. This manipulation tactic is used to downplay your concerns, emotions, or experiences, effectively shrinking your reality until it seems insignificant compared to their needs. By trivializing your feelings, the manipulator seeks to make you question the legitimacy of your own reactions. Instead of outright denying an event occurred, they admit to the action, but aggressively downplay its impact, insisting that you are making a mountain out of a molehill or that the event was not a big deal. This creates a dynamic where the focus shifts from their harmful behavior to your supposedly excessive reaction, forcing you to defend your feelings rather than holding them accountable for their actions. In the early stages of a relationship, minimization often masquerades as casual dismissal or tough love. If you express hurt over a sarcastic comment, they might retort, "I was just joking," or accuse you of being too sensitive. These phrases act as a dual-edged sword. They absolve the narcissist of guilt while simultaneously labeling your emotional response as a defect. As the relationship progresses, this tactic escalates to cover serious offenses. They might rationalize verbal abuse by claiming, "Every couple argues," or dismiss your boundaries by calling you dramatic. By constantly labeling your valid concerns as overreactions, they gradually erode your confidence in your own emotions. You begin to continually second-guess yourself, wondering if you are indeed the problem or if your perception is flawed. The long-term psychological impact of this manipulation is a state of emotional numbness. Victims often stop voicing their needs entirely, fearing that any expression of vulnerability will be met with ridicule or indifference. They begin to shrink themselves, making excuses for their behavior and ignoring your own needs to avoid the pain of invalidation. To break this cycle, you must refuse to let someone else define the validity of your emotions. If something hurts you, it is real, regardless of their opinion. Countering minimization requires you to stand firm in your experience. When they say, "You're overreacting," recognize it not as a truth, but as a defensive maneuver designed to dodge accountability. A healthy partner listens to understand, not to dismiss. If your feelings are consistently treated as inconveniences or subjects of mockery, it is a clear sign of disrespect. Your feelings are valid, and recognizing that their reaction is a manipulation strategy is the first step to reclaiming your voice. 12. The circular trap. Word salad. Word salad is a disorientation tactic used by narcissists to sabotage productive communication, evade accountability, and maintain dominance. It is described as a chaotic communication tactic designed to confuse, exhaust, and manipulate you. Instead of engaging in clear, logical conversation, the narcissist speaks in a convoluted, circular, or nonsensical manner that makes it nearly impossible to reach a resolution. The objective is not to communicate information, but to create a smokescreen of verbal chaos that makes it impossible to pin the manipulator down. When you attempt to address a specific issue, such as a lie or a betrayal, the narcissist will unleash a torrent of words that twisting their words, changing topics, contradicting themselves, and throwing in unrelated details. A typical interaction involves the victim asking a direct question, only to be met with a response that jumps between different subjects, attacks your character, and questions the definition of the words you are using. They might deflect by bringing up ancient history, accusing you of always assuming the worst, or answering a question with a cryptic counter-question. For example, if confronted about a lie, they might launch into a monologue about why you always bring up the past, effectively shifting the focus from their dishonesty to your behavior. This technique, often called distract and deflect, ensures that the original grievance is buried under a pile of verbal debris. By the end of the conversation, you are so fatigued from trying to decode their nonsense that you forget what you were arguing about in the first place. Word salad is effective because it exploits the human desire for logic and coherence. You naturally try to follow their train of thought, not realizing that there is no train, only a deliberate attempt to derail you. The narcissist effectively filibusters the argument until you give up. This tactic creates mental fog and self-doubt, leading you to feel like you are incapable of having a normal conversation. To protect yourself, you must recognize that this confusion is intentional. Do not waste your energy trying to make sense of the senseless. If a conversation starts looping or veering into absurdity, stop engaging. Refuse to chase them down their rabbit holes. Stop chasing clarity from someone who thrives on confusion. State your point clearly once, and if they refuse to respond linearly, end the discussion. You cannot reason with someone who uses language as a weapon to disorient you rather than a tool to connect with you. 13. The illusion of tomorrow. Future faking. Future faking is a deceptive and predatory manipulation tactic, where a narcissist utilizes the promise of a beautiful future to control you in the present. They make grand promises about the future that they have no real intention of keeping, painting an enticing picture of marriage, vacations, career opportunities, or personal change to keep you emotionally invested. These visions of what could be are used as currency to buy your compliance and patience, distracting you from the reality of the relationship's current state. The goal isn't to build a future with you, it's to keep you hooked in the present. In the beginning, future faking feels like finding a soulmate who shares your deepest dreams. They might tell you, "I can't wait to marry you," or promise that next year we'll move in together, creating a powerful emotional anchor. These statements are carefully calibrated to target your desires. When you encounter red flags or mistreatment, the narcissist points to this shared future as a reason to stay, effectively using your own optimism against you. They might say, "I'll change. Just give me time," implying that the abuse is temporary and the reward is just around the corner. You endure the mistreatment because you believe the payoff is inevitable. However, narcissists view the future not as a plan to be executed, but as a tool to control you in the present. The tragedy of future faking is the stolen time. Victims often put their own lives on hold, waiting for the narcissist to finally deliver on their word. You might delay your own personal growth or make decisions based on a fantasy rather than reality. Eventually, you realize the goalposts are constantly moving. Every time you get close to the promised future, a new excuse pushes it further away. None of the things they promised ever happened, and by the time you see the truth, they have likely moved the goalpost again. To break free, you must pivot your focus from their words to their actions. If a person's promises are not matched by consistent, concrete steps in the present, they are merely illusions. Stop believing in their potential and start accepting their reality. A partner worthy of your trust builds the future with you day by day, rather than just talking about it. 14. The false twin. Mirroring. Mirroring is a predatory grooming technique where a narcissist creates a false sense of intimacy by mimicking your personality, interests, values, and even speech patterns. In the initial phases of a connection, they act like a chameleon, reflecting back to you the exact traits you desire in a partner or friend. They will claim to have the exact same aspirations or love the same music, leading you to believe you have discovered a rare, fated connection. This is not genuine compatibility. It is a calculated strategy to win you over before they reveal their true self. By creating a mirror image of your ideal partner, they lower your defenses and accelerate your emotional attachment. The process feels euphoric because it validates your identity. When someone echoes your thoughts and feelings, you feel deeply seen and understood. You might think we have so much in common, leading you to assume they are safe, trustworthy, and meant to be in your life. This rapid bonding creates a foundation of trust that the narcissist later exploits. However, because this persona is fabricated, it is unsustainable. Once they feel they have secured your devotion, the mirroring stops. The person who once loved hiking and deep conversations suddenly becomes a stranger who mocks your interests or values. Their personality changes, and the things they once claimed to love are now irrelevant to them. This cognitive dissonance keeps victims trapped, as they often stay in the relationship, hoping to resurrect the person the narcissist pretended to be. You struggle to reconcile the cruel stranger with the person you met, causing you to keep hoping they'll return to being the person they once were. It is crucial to understand that the person you fell for never truly existed. It was just a reflection of you. Mirroring is a lure, and once the hook is set, the bait is discarded. To protect yourself, be wary of instant, overwhelming connections. True intimacy takes time to build. If someone seems too perfect and aligned with you too quickly, be cautious. A genuine personality does not shift shape to please an audience. It remains stable across time and situations. Pay attention to whether their values remain consistent, or if they shift to match yours to gain favor. 15. The emotional ambush. Baiting. Baiting is a provocation tactic designed to elicit a negative emotional reaction that the narcissist can then weaponize against you. It is described as a psychological manipulation tactic where a narcissist deliberately provokes you to react emotionally. They intentionally push your buttons, knowing exactly what will trigger you, whether it be an insecurity or a past trauma. The moment you react, whether by raising your voice, crying, or defending yourself, they use your response against you. This maneuver allows them to play the victim while you are left looking like the unstable one, giving them the ammunition they need to justify their own toxic behavior. Narcissists are experts at knowing exactly what will trigger you. They might make a cruel comment knowing it will hurt, or bring up past traumas or insecurities just to get a reaction. Often, they will claim they were just joking if you confront them, adding gaslighting to the mix to make you feel unreasonable. Another common form is the withholding bait, where they deliberately ignore you or withhold affection until you become frustrated, then blame you for being negative or attacking them. They thrive on this drama because your emotional response proves that they have control over you. It provides them with narcissistic supply, a reassurance that they are significant enough to dictate your mood. The more you react, the more they feel in control. This cycle is often called reactive abuse, where the victim is poked until they explode, and that explosion is used as proof of their instability. The narcissist might even bait you in public to discredit you in front of others. To defeat baiting, you must deny them the reaction they crave. This requires emotional discipline and the use of the gray rock method, becoming as uninteresting and unresponsive as a stone. When they try to provoke you, remain calm and detached. Do not defend yourself against absurd accusations. Simply acknowledge them with indifference. By refusing to take the bait, you remove their power. If they cannot trigger you, they cannot control the narrative. Recognizing the bait for what it is, a trap, gives you the clarity to step over it rather than stepping into it. 16. The economic cage. Financial control. Financial control is a devastating form of abuse, where a narcissist uses money to dominate, restrict, and keep you dependent on them. By seizing control of economic resources, they create a situation where you feel trapped, unable to leave, and powerless to make your own decisions. This tactic is not just about greed. It is about ensuring you are entirely reliant on them for your basic survival, which silences your voice and limits your options. It is common in romantic partnerships, but can also manifest in family dynamics or toxic workplaces, where a superior exerts power through economic means. The control often starts slowly and subtle. The narcissist might insist on managing the finances, claiming that they're just better with money, or that it is simpler if they handle it. Over time, this evolves into strict surveillance. They may restrict access to accounts, monitor your spending, or even put you on an allowance like a child. They might also sabotage your ability to earn money by discouraging you from working, claiming they will take care of everything, or by causing drama that interferes with your job performance. In severe cases, they may ruin your credit score by taking on debt in your name, or refusing to contribute to shared expenses, while demanding you pay for everything. They may even use threats, saying, "If you leave me, you'll have nothing." The psychological impact is profound. Victims often feel powerless, forced to ask for permission to buy necessities. The fear they won't be able to survive on their own keeps many people in abusive relationships far longer than they would otherwise stay. The narcissist uses money as a weapon. Thriving on this dependence, breaking free requires re-establishing financial autonomy. This might mean keeping separate accounts, building savings, and being aware of where your money is going. Financial independence is a critical component of personal freedom. In a healthy relationship, money is a shared tool for life, not a leash used to control a partner. If someone uses finances to manipulate, restrict, or threaten you, it is a clear signal of abuse and a red flag that they prioritize power over partnership. 17. The Proxy Warriors. Flying monkeys. Flying monkeys are third parties recruited by a narcissist to spy, manipulate, or attack on their behalf. Named after the henchmen in The Wizard of Oz, these individuals act as the narcissist's agents, allowing the abuser to keep control over you while maintaining a safe distance. The goal is to surround you with pressure from all sides, isolating you and making you feel that everyone agrees with the narcissist's version of reality. This tactic is used to enforce compliance, gather intelligence, or punish you for setting boundaries, all while the narcissist pretends to be uninvolved. Flying monkeys can take many forms. Some act as spies, casually asking about your life or emotions under the guise of friendship, only to secretly feed everything you say back to the manipulator. Others act as enforcers, trying to pressure or guilt you into doing what the narcissist wants by saying things like, "You know they really miss you." In more aggressive cases, they participate in smear campaigns, spreading rumors, or even trying to intimidate you on behalf of the narcissist. The narcissist often spins a convincing sob story to these recruits, portraying themselves as the victim and you as the villain, thereby weaponizing the empathy of others against you. These individuals may not have malicious intentions, but they are unknowingly being used to make your life difficult. This triangulation makes the abuse feel overwhelming, as it comes not just from one person but from a group. If you confront the narcissist, They can deny involvement, claiming, "I never told them to do that." To deal with flying monkeys, you must enforce strict boundaries. Do not engage in debates or try to explain your side of the story to them. They are likely already poisoned by the narcissist's narrative. If someone repeatedly brings messages from the narcissist or tries to pressure you, distance yourself from them as well. True allies will respect your need for distance and safety. Recognizing that these people are merely tools of the narcissist helps you detach emotionally from their attacks. 18. The slot machine effect. Intermittent reinforcement. Intermittent reinforcement is a powerful psychological conditioning tactic where a narcissist dispenses sporadic affection, approval, or rewards to keep you emotionally addicted. Instead of providing consistent love, they alternate between warmth and coldness, creating a cycle that mimics a gambling addiction. Because you never know when the win, affection, is coming. The unpredictability makes you work harder for it, much like pulling the lever of a slot machine repeatedly in hopes of a payout. This inconsistency creates a powerful chemical bond, known as a trauma bond. The dynamic usually follows a specific pattern. First, they hook you with a phase of love, attention, and admiration, making you feel valued. Then, they withdraw, becoming distant, critical, or even cruel. Just as you reach the point of despair and consider leaving, they throw you a crumb. A small dose of affection, a compliment, or an apology. This momentary relief causes a surge of dopamine, making you feel hopeful that things are getting better. You cling to this hope, believing that if you just do the right thing or behave perfectly, you can stabilize this good version of them. The narcissist uses this to train you. They punish independence with silence and reward submission with crumbs of affection. This cycle erodes your self-esteem and keeps you stuck constantly chasing their love. Studies have shown that unpredictable rewards create stronger emotional attachments than consistent ones, which is why this tactic is so difficult to break. It conditions the victim to tolerate high levels of abuse for the promise of a fleeting reward. This tactic is not limited to romance. A manipulative boss might praise you one day and belittle you the next, or a parent might be affectionate only sporadically. To break free, you must recognize the pattern and step back emotionally. Look at the relationship's overall trend, not just the occasional moments of kindness. If someone treats you well only in unpredictable, sporadic bursts while making you suffer in between, that is manipulation, not love. 19. The punishment of silence. Emotional withholding. Emotional withholding is a cruel manipulation strategy where a narcissist deliberately refuses to show love, affection, or validation to exert control over you. By creating an emotional void, they force you to chase after them, desperate to restore the connection. It is a form of passive-aggressive punishment designed to make you feel unworthy and insecure. Unlike a natural cooling-off period, this withdrawal is calculated and transactional. They deprive you of emotional warmth to create a sense of lack, making you desperate to earn their approval. At the start of the relationship, the narcissist is often overflowing with attention. Once they feel secure in your attachment, they begin to ration their warmth. They might stop complimenting you, refuse to hold your hand, or greet your news with indifference. If you ask what is wrong, they often gaslight you, dismissing your concerns or acting as if nothing is wrong, while continuing to act cold. This leaves you in a state of anxiety, replaying your actions to find the mistake you made. The goal is to force you to work harder to please them through compliance and self-sacrifice. You essentially beg for the bare minimum of human connection, which gives them supreme power over your self-worth. The long-term damage of emotional withholding is severe. It creates a deep sense of inadequacy and loneliness, even within the relationship. You may start questioning your value and blaming yourself for their cold behavior. This tactic conditions you to believe that love is conditional and must be earned by meeting their impossible standards. To counter this, you must realize that love and validation should not be something you have to beg for. If someone consistently withholds affection to make you feel inadequate, they are manipulating you. Stop chasing their approval. Shift your focus towards self-validation and seek relationships where love is freely given, not rationed as a tool for control. A healthy relationship involves consistent support, not a cycle of starvation. 20. The Web of Deceit. Pathological lying. Pathological lying is a compulsive behavior where a narcissist lies constantly, even when unnecessary, to maintain control over their image and those around them. Unlike ordinary lies told to avoid trouble, these lies are calculated and often detached from reality. The narcissist lies to appear superior, to control a narrative, or simply to test how much they can get away with. This constant stream of fabrication makes it impossible to build trust or have a genuine connection, as you never truly know who you are dealing with or what is real. The lies can range from big and dramatic claims about their success or victimhood to small, subtle lies that twist facts or deny events. Over time, these constant fabrications create a world where nothing they say can be trusted. When you catch them in a lie, they rarely admit it. Instead, they deny it outright, twist the truth, or accuse you of being paranoid, engaging in gaslighting to make you question your own memory. They may even invent stories to isolate you, claiming others have said negative things about you to turn you against your friends. What makes this so dangerous is that the narcissist often believes their own lies in the moment, creating a twisted version of reality that they defend aggressively. You cannot reason with a pathological liar because they do not play by the rules of objective reality. In their mind, they are always right. Trying to get the truth out of them is a futile exercise that will only leave you exhausted. The best way to deal with a pathological liar is to stop trying to get the truth out of them. Recognize that honesty is not part of their character. If someone consistently distorts reality and refuses to take responsibility, distance yourself. Trust should be earned through consistent actions, and a habitual liar shows you repeatedly that they do not deserve that trust. Focus on their actions, not their words, because their words are merely tools for manipulation. 21. Strategic amnesia. Deliberate forgetfulness. Deliberate forgetfulness is a highly calculated, passive-aggressive manipulation tactic, where a narcissist intentionally claims to have no memory of important information, commitments, or shared realities to exert control and invalidate your experiences, not unlike genuine absent-mindedness, which is sporadic and usually followed by a sincere apology and an attempt to rectify the mistake. Deliberate forgetfulness is selective and strategic. The narcissist will possess a near-photographic memory for any slight you have committed against them or any detail that benefits their agenda, yet they will conveniently blank out on your birthday, a promise to pay a bill, or a crucial boundary you set the day before. This behavior is not a cognitive failing. It is a dominance display designed to signal that your needs, words, and presence are so insignificant that they do not warrant space in the manipulator's mind. The psychological impact of this tactic is profound because it forces the victim into a state of constant vigilance and frustration. When you confront the narcissist about a broken promise or a forgotten event, they will often gaslight you with responses like, "I don't remember you ever telling me that," or "Are you sure? I would have remembered something that important." This invalidation makes you question your own memory and perception of reality. You start to wonder, did I actually say that? Maybe I wasn't clear enough. This self-doubt allows the narcissist to rewrite history in real time, absolving themselves of accountability while positioning you as the one who is unreasonable, nagging, or imagining things. Furthermore, deliberate forgetfulness functions as a covert form of punishment. If you have recently stood up for yourself or challenged their authority, the narcissist may suddenly forget to pick you up from work or forget to pass on an urgent message. By disguising this retaliation as a simple mistake, they maintain plausible deniability, making it difficult for you to accuse them of malice without appearing paranoid. Over time, this tactic wears you down. You stop asking for support or relying on them for anything, conditioning yourself to expect nothing. This creates a one-sided dynamic where you are responsible for managing the entire relationship while they float through life without obligations. To counter deliberate forgetfulness, you must stop engaging with the "I forgot" excuse. Recognize the pattern. If their memory fails only when it serves them, it is a choice. Start documenting every important agreement in writing, via text, email, or shared calendar invites, so you have undeniable proof. When they claim they forgot, do not waste energy arguing about their intent or trying to jog their memory. Instead, hold them accountable for the impact of their actions. You can say, whether you forgot or not, "The result is that you let me down, and that is not acceptable." By refusing to accept incompetence as an excuse, you force them to face the consequences of their behavior. 22. The erosion of limits. Boundary testing. Boundary testing is a systematic and predatory manipulation strategy where a narcissist probes, pushes, and violates your personal limits to gauge how much control they can exert over you. They rarely bulldoze your major boundaries all at once. Instead, they chip away at them gradually, starting with small, seemingly trivial infractions. They might interrupt you while you are speaking, make a sarcastic joke about a sensitive topic after you ask them to stop, or show up 10 minutes late to every event. These micro-violations serve as a test. If you let these small things slide to keep the peace, the narcissist interprets your silence as submission and permission to escalate their behavior. This tactic relies heavily on the psychological concept of desensitization, often referred to as the boiling frog effect. If you try to resist their initial, subtle push, they will often gaslight you to make you feel unreasonable or rigid. They might say, "Relax, it's not a big deal. You're being too sensitive," or "I was just trying to be spontaneous." These responses are designed to make you doubt the validity of your own boundaries and hesitate to enforce them the next time. Over time, this cumulative testing wears down your resolve. You begin to rationalize their behavior, convincing yourself that it is easier to just give in than to endure the conflict or the guilt-tripping that follows an objection. As the relationship progresses, the violations become more severe. What started as interrupting your phone calls may escalate to reading your private messages, demanding access to your finances, or pressuring you into sexual acts you are uncomfortable with. The narcissist views boundaries not as lines of respect, but as obstacles to their total control. By the time you realize how far things have gone, you may have already compromised your values and autonomy significantly. The only way to stop boundary testing is through rigid, immediate, and consistent enforcement. It is not enough to simply state your limit verbally. You must attach a behavioral consequence to it. If they interrupt you, stop the conversation and walk away. If they insult you, end the visit immediately. Do not explain, justify, or negotiate your boundary, as this invites them to argue and wear you down further. Stand firm in your no. If they continue to push, recognize that it is not a misunderstanding. It is a deliberate demonstration of their lack of respect for you. You must be willing to distance yourself, because a person who refuses to accept your no is fundamentally unsafe. Remember, the boundaries you set are only as strong as your willingness to defend them. 23. The architecture of terror. Fear-mongering. Fear-mongering is a pervasive psychological control tactic where a narcissist deliberately instills anxiety, panic, and terror to dominate your thoughts, actions, and decisions. Instead of building a relationship based on trust, safety, and mutual growth, they weaponize your deepest insecurities and survival instincts to make you compliant and dependent. They systematically paint a grim, terrifying picture of the world, or your future, without them, convincing you that leaving the relationship, disobeying their rules, or seeking independence will lead to absolute catastrophe. This keeps you paralyzed in a psychological cage, afraid to advocate for yourself because you are too terrified of the consequences they have fabricated. In romantic relationships, this often manifests as threats of abandonment or eternal loneliness. They might say, "If you leave me, no one else will ever love you. You're damaged goods, or you'll regret walking away from this for the rest of your life." They may also threaten to destroy your reputation, ruin your finances, or take your children away, creating a scenario where staying in the abusive dynamic feels like the only safe option. In family dynamics, a narcissistic parent might terrify a child with stories of how dangerous and unforgiving the outside world is, ensuring the child remains under their thumb and reliant on them well into adulthood. The most insidious form of fear-mongering involves the fabrication of immediate crises. The narcissist might claim they have powerful connections that can ruin your career, or they might threaten self-harm if you don't comply with their demands. By creating a constant state of emergency, they keep your nervous system in a state of high alert, fight or flight, which overrides your logic and critical thinking skills. You become so focused on avoiding the danger they have described that you fail to realize the true danger is the person standing in front of you. To counter fear-mongering, you must learn to critically evaluate the threats rather than reacting emotionally. Ask yourself, is this person presenting a constructive solution to a problem, or are they the one creating the fear to make me submit? Fear should never be the foundation of a relationship or a decision-making process. If someone uses intimidation to influence your choices, they are not protecting you. They are holding you hostage. The strongest defense is to base your decisions on objective facts and reality, not the nightmare scenarios they project. Seek outside perspectives to reality check their claims. When you stop letting their manufactured fear dictate your actions, you strip them of their power. 24. Character assassination. Discrediting. Discrediting is a malicious and calculated manipulation tactic designed to destroy your reputation, erode your social standing, and undermine your credibility in the eyes of others. The narcissist spreads misinformation, twists the truth, and casts doubt on your character and mental stability to ensure that if you ever try to expose their abuse, no one will believe you. This is a preemptive strike. By painting you as unstable, irrational, jealous, or untrustworthy to friends, family, and colleagues, they isolate you and secure their own position as the sane and long-suffering partner. Their goal is to weaken your influence and ensure they control the narrative surrounding your relationship. The process of discrediting often starts subtly, making it difficult to detect until the damage is done. They might drop casual, seemingly innocent remarks to others like, "She's been really emotional lately. I'm worried about her," or he tends to exaggerate things when he's stressed. These small statements act as seeds of doubt in people's minds. As time goes on, these attacks escalate. They may share your private secrets out of context, fabricate stories about your behavior, or project their own toxic traits onto you. In a professional setting, a narcissistic coworker or boss might question your competence to superiors, saying, "I don't know if they can handle this responsibility," to sabotage your career advancement while appearing to be looking out for the company. When you finally react to their abuse, perhaps by getting angry or crying, they use that reaction as proof that their lies were true all along. They will say to others, "See, I told you she was crazy," using your pain to validate their smear campaign. The impact of discrediting is devastating because it isolates you when you need support the most. You may feel like you are screaming into a void because the people around you have been poisoned by the narcissist's narrative, leading you to doubt your own reality. The best way to combat discrediting is not to engage in a mudslinging contest. Arguing against the smear campaign often makes you look defensive and validates their claims of drama. Instead, maintain your integrity and consistency. Let your actions speak louder than their words. Over time, the truth has a way of revealing itself, and the cracks in the narcissist's story will appear to observant people. Focus on maintaining strong connections with the few people who truly know you and refuse to waste energy trying to convince those who are committed to misunderstanding you. Remember, their need to destroy your reputation is a sign of their insecurity, not a reflection of your worth. 25. The shame spiral. Shaming. Shaming is a pervasive and deeply damaging manipulation technique where a narcissist systematically attacks your self-worth to make you feel inadequate, flawed, and undeserving of respect. Unlike guilt, which is a feeling of remorse for a specific action, I did something bad. Shame is a pervasive belief about one's identity. I am bad. The narcissist weaponizes this distinction to make you feel inherently defective, ensuring that you constantly seek their validation to feel good enough. They aim to create an emotional environment where you doubt your intelligence, appearance, and your value as a human being, making you easier to control because you feel you are lucky just to be tolerated by them. This tactic often begins with subtle jokes or constructive criticism, designed to chip away at your confidence without appearing overtly aggressive. They might say, "You really don't know how to dress, do you?" Or, "Wow, you still haven't figured your life out at your age." If you take offense, they gaslight you by claiming they were just teasing and accusing you of being too sensitive. In arguments, they weaponize shame to silence you, mocking your opinions. That's ridiculous. Do you even hear yourself? Or belittling your emotions. You're embarrassing yourself with all this crying. In relationships, they may shame you for having basic needs, calling you selfish for setting boundaries, or needy for wanting affection. The danger of shaming is that it triggers deep-seated insecurities, often rooting into childhood wounds where you may have felt not good enough. The narcissist exploits this vulnerability, reinforcing the belief that you are the problem. Over time, you begin to internalize their voice, policing your own behavior to avoid their ridicule and shrinking yourself to avoid judgment. You stop pursuing goals or speaking up because the fear of shame is too great. To break the shame spiral, you must recognize that their insults are a projection of their own insecurity, not a reflection of your reality. When they try to shame you, pause and ask yourself, is this comment meant to help me or to hurt me? Refuse to accept the shame they are trying to hand you. You can respond by calmly stating, "I don't agree with that assessment," or simply refusing to engage with the insult. Surround yourself with people who uplift you and remind yourself that no one has the authority to dictate your worth. The narcissist shames you because your confidence threatens their control. Your self-acceptance is their greatest fear. 26. The Narcissistic Olympics. Competitive one-upping. Competitive one-upping is a narcissistic habit of constantly diminishing your achievements, experiences, and struggles to shift the spotlight back onto themselves. In the narcissist's worldview, life is a zero-sum game where your success implies their failure. Therefore, they must immediately outshine you to re-establish their perceived superiority. Whether you share a small personal victory, a major life milestone, or even a painful tragedy, the narcissist will find a way to make the conversation about them, ensuring you never feel fully celebrated, validated, or hurt. Their goal is to keep you feeling small and inferior, reinforcing a hierarchy where they are always the main character and you are merely a supporting actor. This dynamic can be incredibly frustrating. If you tell them you got a promotion at work, they won't congratulate you. Instead, they will immediately launch into a story about how they were promoted faster, earned more money, or managed a bigger team. If you mention you ran 5 miles this morning, they will casually mention they run 10 miles every day. Even your pain is not safe from their competition. If you mention you are having a difficult time or feeling sick, they will interrupt to tell you that their life is much harder, their illness is worse, or their stress is more significant. Instead of offering empathy, they minimize your pain to make it seem like you have no right to complain compared to them. In social settings, this behavior serves to humiliate you and capture attention. If you tell a joke, they will try to tell a louder, funnier one. If people are praising you, they will interrupt with, "That reminds me of when I did something even more impressive." Over time, this relentless competition erodes your sense of accomplishment. You stop sharing good news because you know it will be hijacked or minimized. You may even start to shrink your ambitions to avoid triggering their envy. To deal with one-upping, you must stop seeking validation from the narcissist. Understand that their behavior stems from a fragile ego that cannot withstand anyone else shining. When they try to top your story, do not engage or compete. Do not try to prove that your experience is valid. Simply say, "That sounds great for you," and move on. Save your news for people who are secure enough to be happy for you. You do not need the narcissist's permission or acknowledgement for your success to be real. 27. Revisionist History. Controlling the narrative. Controlling the narrative is a fundamental and highly effective manipulation tactic, where a narcissist rewrites the past to suit their present agenda. They distort facts, alter timelines, and reshape memories to paint themselves as the innocent hero or the victim, while casting you as the villain, the aggressor, or the incompetent fool. This is not just about lying. It is about defining reality itself. By controlling the story, they avoid accountability for their abuse and maintain a public image of perfection while making you question your own sanity. The changes to the story can be subtle at first, making them harder to catch. They might downplay their aggression in an argument, claiming, "I never said that, you're remembering it wrong," or "I was just joking." As time goes on, the lies become the official history. If you try to bring up a past hurt, they will rewrite it entirely. "I was only trying to help you, and you attacked me," or "You were the one who started it." This creates cognitive dissonance, where your memory conflicts with their confident assertions. They also control the narrative externally, telling friends and family a curated version of events where they are the victim of your irrationality or cruelty. This ensures that if you try to leave or speak out, the ground has already been poisoned against you, and you may find yourself isolated. This tactic leaves victims feeling powerless, as if they are living in a house of mirrors where the truth doesn't matter. You may start to doubt your own mind, thinking, "Maybe I am overreacting," or "Maybe I did misunderstand." This self-doubt is exactly what they want, as it prevents you from pushing back. To counter this, you must become a historian of your own life. Document everything, save emails, take screenshots of texts, and keep a journal of events immediately after they happen. When the narcissist tries to rewrite history, refer to your evidence. You do not need to convince them. You never will. But you need to remind yourself of the truth. Trust your memory and refuse to let them gaslight you into accepting a false reality, where you are always at fault. 28. The Success Trap. Sabotaging success. Sabotaging success is a covert and malicious control tactic where a narcissist deliberately undermines your personal, educational, or professional growth to keep you dependent on. Narcissists view your independence as a threat. If you become too successful, confident, or financially stable, you might realize your own worth and decide you no longer need them. Therefore, they act as a deadweight, subtly or overtly dragging you down whenever you attempt to rise. Their goal is to keep you in a state of manageable inferiority, where you remain reliant on their validation and resources, ensuring you never outshine them or gain the power to leave. This sabotage can manifest in various ways, depending on the relationship. In a romantic partnership, they might act concerned to discourage you from pursuing new opportunities, saying, "I just don't want you to get hurt," or "That job will take up too much time. What about us?" More aggressively, they may create stress and chaos right before a big event. They might pick a massive fight the night before a job interview to leave you emotionally drained, or feign an illness so you miss an important meeting. In family dynamics, a narcissistic parent might undermine a child's independence by questioning their ability to survive on their own, saying, "Are you sure you can handle that? It's a lot of responsibility." In the workplace, a narcissistic boss or colleague might take credit for your ideas, withhold critical information you need to do your job, or delay promotions to prevent you from rising above them. Even in personal growth areas like fitness or mental health, they might try to derail you. If you start losing weight or feeling more confident, they might become distant, critical, or accuse you of changing and thinking you're better than them. The underlying message is clear. Your success is a betrayal of the relationship. This conditions you to fear your own potential and self-sabotage to keep the peace. To break free, you must recognize that a person who truly loves you will celebrate your wings, not try to clip them. If someone consistently creates drama when you are on the verge of a breakthrough, it is intentional. Do not share your goals or big plans with them until they are secured. Surround yourself with people who are not threatened by your growth. Push forward despite their resistance, because your success is the one thing they fear most. It is your ticket to freedom. 29. The Trojan horse of praise. Excessive flattery. Excessive flattery is a manipulative grooming tactic used to lower your defenses, gain your trust rapidly, and create a false sense of intimacy. Unlike genuine appreciation, which is grounded in reality, balanced and built over time, this flattery is intense, overwhelming, and often transactional. The narcissist showers you with over-the-top compliments, telling you that you are the most amazing person they've ever met, their soulmate, or a genius within days of meeting you. This creates an illusion of deep connection and validation, making you feel seen and special in a way you never have before. However, this is a trap designed to make you emotionally dependent on their approval before they reveal their true nature. This tactic is most common in the love-bombing phase of a relationship. They place you on a pedestal so high that you feel dizzy with adoration. You might hear, "I've never felt this way about anyone," or "You are perfect. You are unlike anyone else." Because it feels so good to be idealized, you silence your intuition about how fast things are moving. You assume that because they appreciate you so much, they must be a safe and loving person. But once they have you hooked and emotionally invested, the flattery stops. It is replaced by subtle criticism, indifference, or passive-aggressive comments. This sudden shift leaves you desperate to get back to that golden period. You start working harder, tolerating mistreatment, and sacrificing your boundaries to earn back the praise they once gave freely. You become addicted to the high of their validation, making the lows of their abuse harder to escape. In professional settings, a boss might use flattery to manipulate you into doing unpaid work. "You're the only one I trust with this project," only to exploit your loyalty without reward. To protect yourself from excessive flattery, you must look at the context and the actions accompanying the words. Is the praise consistent with how long they have known you? Does it feel like they are trying to sell you something or rush the relationship? Genuine respect is steady and doesn't vanish the moment you set a boundary or say no. If the compliments feel too heavy too soon or conditional, take a step back. Trust your gut. If something feels too good to be true, it usually is. Do not let your hunger for validation blind you to the manipulator's agenda. True worth comes from within, not from the empty words of someone trying to control you. 30. The fog. Emotional blackmail. Emotional blackmail is a coercive and powerful manipulation tactic where a narcissist uses fear, obligation, and guilt, often referred to by the acronym FOG, to force you into compliance. Instead of making reasonable requests or respecting your right to say no, they threaten to punish you emotionally if you don't give them what they want. They create a dynamic where your autonomy is framed as an attack on them or the relationship. The underlying message is always, "If you don't do what I want, you will suffer." Whether that suffering comes through their anger, their silence, or their own manufactured distress, the threats can be overt or subtle. They might use fear to intimidate you. "If you leave me, I'll never recover. I'll tell everyone your secrets, or you'll never see the kids again." They might use guilt to bind you. "After all I've sacrificed for you, this is how you treat me. Or I guess I just don't matter to you anymore." Perhaps most dangerously, they might use their own vulnerability as a weapon, threatening self-harm to trap you. I don't know what I'll do if you're not in my life, implying that their survival is your responsibility. This places a crushing burden on the victim, making them feel trapped and forced to surrender their own needs to prevent a crisis. Emotional blackmail destroys trust because it negates consent. You aren't saying yes because you want to. You are saying yes to make the pressure stop and to avoid the threatened consequences. Over time, this creates a cycle of compliance where you give up more and more of yourself to keep the peace. To deal with this, you must see the threat for what it is, a negotiation tactic, not a reality. When they say, "If you loved me, you would do this," recognize it as a trap. Shift the responsibility back to them. You can say, "I understand you are upset, but I cannot make choices based on fear." If they threaten self-harm, call emergency services. Do not handle it alone. This shows them that their threats have real-world consequences and cannot be used to control you. You are not responsible for managing another adult's emotions or actions. Breaking the cycle requires the courage to withstand the fog and stand firm in your boundaries, refusing to let guilt or fear dictate your life choices. 31. The Erasure of Truth. Denying reality. Denying reality is one of the most aggressive and disorienting forms of gaslighting employed by narcissists to dismantle your sanity. Unlike a simple difference of opinion or a misunderstanding, this is a deliberate, calculated refusal to acknowledge objective facts that have occurred. The narcissist will look you in the eye and flatly deny events, conversations, or actions that you witnessed with your own senses. They will insist, "I never said that. That never happened," or "You are making things up," even when you are holding physical evidence like text messages, emails, or recordings. The goal is not merely to win an argument. It is to invalidate your cognitive perception to the point where you no longer trust your own mind. By aggressively rejecting reality, they force you to choose between your own memory and their version of events, often bullying you into accepting the latter to maintain the relationship. This tactic creates a severe state of cognitive dissonance in the victim. When the person you love or trust asserts with absolute conviction that reality is false, your brain struggles to reconcile the contradiction. Over time, this leads to a psychological phenomenon known as perspecticide, the death of your perspective. You begin to feel like you are losing your grip on reality. You stop trusting your memory, your judgment, and your instincts. You may find yourself apologizing for things you didn't do or agreeing to false narratives simply to end the confusion and conflict. The narcissist uses this confusion as a control mechanism. If you cannot trust your own mind, you must rely on theirs. They become the sole arbiter of truth, deciding what is real and what is not, which gives them absolute power over your existence. The danger of this manipulation is that it isolates you from your own history. If you attempt to hold them accountable for past abuse, they simply erase the event from the narrative. "You're crazy. I never hit you," or "I never promised to pay you back." This makes resolution impossible because you are trying to solve a problem that they refuse to admit exists. To counter this, you must become a meticulous record keeper of your own life. Documentation is your lifeline. Save screenshots, keep a journal, and record conversations if legal in your area. When they deny reality, do not argue. You cannot use logic to convince someone who is willfully blind. Instead, anchor yourself in your evidence. Look at your records and remind yourself, "I am not crazy. This happened." Disengaging from the argument is the only way to preserve your sanity. You must accept that their denial is not a sign of their forgetfulness, but a weapon of their control. 32. The predator's patience. Grooming. Grooming is a predatory psychological conditioning process used by narcissists to prepare a victim for abuse. While often associated with crimes against children, grooming is rampant in adult relationships, workplaces, and cults. It is a slow, calculated method of lowering your defenses, isolating you from support, and normalizing toxic behavior so that by the time the abuse becomes overt, you are too entangled to leave. Unlike a sudden attack, grooming feels like a seduction. It begins with the idealization phase, where the manipulator studies you to determine your vulnerabilities, unmet needs, and insecurities. They then mold themselves into the perfect partner, friend, or mentor to fill those voids, creating a powerful bond of trust and dependency. Once this trust is established, the desensitization begins. The narcissist introduces small, subtle boundary violations, a backhanded compliment, a minor invasion of privacy, or a small request for secrecy. If you object, they gaslight you or play the victim to make you feel guilty for doubting them. If you accept it, they proceed to the next level. This is often described as the boiling frog effect. The heat is turned up so gradually that you don't realize you are burning until it is too late. They may also begin to isolate you from your support system, subtly criticizing your friends and family to make you feel that no one understands us but us. This isolation ensures that when the abuse escalates, you have no one to turn to for a reality check. A critical component of grooming is the normalization of secrecy and exclusivity. They might say, "Don't tell anyone about this. They will just be jealous," or "This is our little secret." By creating a private world that operates by different rules than the rest of society, they detach you from objective moral standards. The victim often unknowingly becomes complicit in their own entrapment, defending the abuser to others because they are holding on to the idealized version of the person they first met. To protect yourself, you must be vigilant about the pace of a relationship. Healthy connections build trust over time through consistent action. If someone pushes for instant intimacy, demands secrecy, or tests your boundaries early on, these are red flags of grooming. Trust your intuition. If a relationship feels like it is moving too fast or feels too perfect, it is likely a manufactured illusion designed to trap you. 33. The Trap of Incompetence, feigning helplessness. Feigning helplessness, often referred to in modern psychology as weaponized incompetence, is a manipulative tactic where a narcissist pretends to be incapable of performing basic tasks, making decisions, or handling responsibilities to shift the burden onto you. It is a passive-aggressive strategy designed to exploit your nurturing nature and force you into a role of servitude. The narcissist is not actually incompetent. They are simply unwilling. By acting confused, clumsy, or overwhelmed by simple chores, like cooking, cleaning, paying bills, or parenting, they manipulate you into doing the work for them. They might say, "I'm just not good at this like you are," or "Every time I try, I mess it up, so you should just do it." This tactic serves multiple purposes. First, it allows the narcissist to avoid the drudgery of daily life while taking credit for being easygoing. Second, it creates a dynamic of dependency where you become the parent, and they become the parent, and they become the child. This imbalance erodes romantic or professional equality. You find yourself managing their life, their schedule, and their emotions, leaving you exhausted and resentful. If you refuse to help or try to teach them, they will often sabotage the task on purpose, burning the dinner, shrinking the laundry, or forgetting the deadline to prove that they really can't do it, ensuring you never ask them again. This is a calculated refusal to function as an adult partner. The most damaging aspect of feigning helplessness is the mental load it places on the victim. You become the project manager of the relationship, constantly worrying about whether things will get done. If you express frustration, the narcissist plays the victim, accusing you of being controlling, nagging, or unsupportive. "I'm trying my best. Why are you always criticizing me?" They might whine, effectively guilt-tripping you for their deliberate laziness. To counter this, you must stop rescuing them. If they mess up a task, let them face the consequences. If they claim they don't know how to do something, direct them to a tutorial rather than doing it for them. "I am sure you can figure it out" is a powerful phrase. By refusing to pick up their slack, You force them to reveal their true capacity. You are looking for a partner, not a dependent, and you must refuse to enable their learned helplessness. 34. Rules for thee, not for me. Double standards. Double standards are the hallmark of the narcissist's entitlement and their distorted view of hierarchy. This manipulation tactic involves holding you to incredibly strict, often impossible rules and expectations, while the narcissist remains completely exempt from them. In their mind, they are special, superior beings who exist above the laws that govern ordinary people. This creates a rigged game where you are constantly scrutinized and punished for minor infractions, while they are free to behave however they please, without consequence. The relationship becomes a dictatorship, where the rules are designed solely to control you, not to create mutual respect or fairness. In practice, this hypocrisy is maddening. A narcissistic partner may demand total transparency from you, checking your phone and interrogating you about your whereabouts, yet they will lock their own devices and disappear for hours without explanation. They may fly into a rage if you spend a small amount of money on a hobby, accusing you of being irresponsible, while they drain the joint account on luxury items for themselves. They expect you to be emotionally available, patient, and forgiving 24/7. Yet the moment you need support, they are cold, dismissive, or too busy. If you attempt to point out this discrepancy, they will not engage in a logical discussion. Instead, they will gaslight you. It's different when I do it because, or attack you for being petty and keeping score. This dynamic erodes your self-esteem because it reinforces the idea that you are lesser than them. You start to internalize the belief that you don't deserve the same rights, privacy, or respect that they do. You walk on eggshells, trying to meet their impossible standards to avoid conflict, while suppressing your own justifiable anger at their behavior. To break free from double standards, you must stop seeking fairness from someone who benefits from inequality. Do not try to argue the logic of their hypocrisy. They know they are being unfair, they just don't care. Instead, mirror their energy or set firm boundaries. If they refuse to show you their phone, stop showing them yours. If they can't be bothered to call you when they are late, stop waiting up for them. You must act as if you are their equal, even if they refuse to treat you as one. 35. The drama factory. Exaggeration. Exaggeration is a theatrical manipulation tactic where a narcissist blows events, emotions, and circumstances completely out of proportion to distort your reality and hijack your attention. They are the kings and queens of drama, incapable of stating a simple fact without embellishing it to serve their agenda. This tactic is used to create urgency, instill fear, garner sympathy, or demonize you. By magnifying every situation, they keep you in a state of high emotional arousal, making it difficult for you to think critically or assess the truth. In the narcissist's world, a minor inconvenience is a catastrophe, a small disagreement is a war, and a slight delay is an unforgivable abandonment. When you used to play the victim, exaggeration turns a paper cut into a mortal wound. If you politely ask them to do a chore, they might exclaim, "You are always attacking me. I do everything around here, and you treat me like a slave." By using superlatives like always, never, everyone, and nobody, they paint a black and white picture where you are the villain and they are the martyr. Conversely, they exaggerate their own achievements to comical levels to demand admiration. A participation trophy becomes a gold medal. A polite email from a boss becomes proof that they are running the company. This constant distortion forces you to manage their inflated emotions rather than addressing real issues. The danger of exaggeration is that it desensitizes you to reality while simultaneously keeping you stressed. You spend your energy putting out fires that aren't real. If you try to bring the conversation back to earth with facts, they accuse you of being unsupportive or invalidating their feelings. "You just don't care about what I'm going through," they will scream, effectively shutting down rational dialogue. To deal with this, you must learn to gray rock their drama. Do not feed the fire with your own emotional reaction. When they make a catastrophic claim, ask for specific details. When exactly did I say that? Or what specific injury do you have? By calmly asking for facts, you puncture the balloon of their exaggeration. Refuse to ride their emotional roller coaster. Stay grounded on the platform of reality. 36. The poisoned gift. Backhanded compliments. Backhanded compliments, also known in the pickup artist community as negging, are passive-aggressive insults disguised as praise. This is a subtle but corrosive manipulation tactic designed to undermine your self-esteem while maintaining plausible deniability. The narcissist wraps a barb inside a layer of sweetness, creating cognitive dissonance. You hear the tone of a compliment, but you feel the sting of an insult. Phrases like, "You look great for your age," "I love how you're brave enough to wear that," or "You're actually quite smart when you apply yourself," are not meant to lift you up. They are precision strikes aimed at your insecurities, designed to remind you of your flaws, while the narcissist positions themselves as the benevolent judge of your worth. The goal of this tactic is to lower your status and keep you seeking their validation. By making you feel slightly inadequate, the narcissist ensures that you work harder to impress them. It creates a dynamic where you are constantly trying to prove that you are smart enough, attractive enough, or successful enough. If you call them out on the insult, they immediately retreat behind the shield of the compliment. They will gaslight you by saying, "I was just saying you look nice," "You are so sensitive," or "I can't say anything right with you." This makes you feel guilty for standing up for yourself and reinforces the idea that the problem lies in your perception, not their cruelty. In social settings, backhanded compliments are used to humiliate you publicly while looking innocent. They might say to a group, "It's so cute how he tries to fix things around the house," undermining your competence while smiling. To counter this, you must strip away the disguise. Do not say thank you. Instead, address the insult directly or ask for clarification. A powerful response is to play dumb. "I don't understand." "What do you mean by 'for my age'? Or that sounded like an insult. Was it intended to be one?" By forcing them to explain the joke or the compliment, you expose the malice underneath. You can also simply mirror it back or ignore it entirely. Do not let them define your value with their poisoned words. Recognize that a true compliment leaves you feeling good, not confused or diminished. 37. The wall of noise. Information overload. Information overload, often called intellectual bullying or filibustering, is a manipulation tactic where a narcissist bombards you with an excessive amount of data, details, tangents, and circular logic to overwhelm your cognitive processing. The goal is not to communicate or clarify. It is to exhaust you into submission. When you ask a simple question or try to hold them accountable for a specific action, they unleash a torrent of words. They might dive into irrelevant history, use complex jargon you don't understand, bring up 5 other unrelated arguments, or speak in riddles. By the time they stop talking, you are so mentally drained and confused that you forget what the original issue was. This tactic exploits the human brain's limited capacity for processing information during stress. The narcissist knows that if they talk long enough and fast enough, you will eventually shut down. This allows them to hide the truth in plain sight, buried under a mountain of nonsense. For example, if you ask where the money in the bank account went, they might launch into a 20-minute lecture on the global economy, inflation, their childhood poverty, and your spending habits from 3 years ago, without ever answering the question. They dominate the airtime to prevent you from speaking, thinking, or objecting. It is a verbal assault designed to make you feel stupid for not keeping up or to make you give up simply to make the noise stop. The narcissist uses this wall of noise to avoid accountability. If you try to interrupt, they accuse you of not listening or being rude. "Let me finish?" They demand, claiming the moral high ground while continuing to bludgeon you with words. To deal with information overload, you must refuse to engage with the content of their filibuster. Do not try to argue every point they make. That is a trap. Instead, stick to your original point like a broken record. Use the broken record technique. I understand all that, but you still haven't answered why the account is empty. If they continue to ramble, disengage. I can see you aren't ready to answer my question directly. We can talk later when you can be concise. Walk away. You are not required to listen to a monologue meant to erase your reality. Silence is better than noise designed to control you. 38. The mask of ignorance. Playing dumb. Playing dumb is a deceptive manipulation tactic, where a narcissist pretends not to understand simple concepts, instructions, or social norms to avoid responsibility or gaslight you. Unlike feigning helplessness, which is about avoiding tasks, playing dumb is about avoiding accountability and moral obligation. The narcissist acts as if they are baffled by basic human decency or the rules of your relationship. If they hurt your feelings, they will look at you with wide, innocent eyes and say, "I didn't know that would upset you," even though you have discussed it 100 times. If they break a boundary, they will claim, "I didn't realize that was a rule," despite it being common sense. This tactic allows them to get away with malicious behavior while appearing innocent. It forces you into the exhausting role of explaining basic empathy and respect to a grown adult. You find yourself saying things like, "You shouldn't flirt with other people in front of me," or "You need to tell me if you're going to be late," while they nod vacantly, acting as if this is brand new information. By pretending to be oblivious, they invalidate your anger. After all, how can you be mad at someone who didn't know? This makes you feel guilty for holding them accountable and leads you to question if your expectations are too high. Playing dumb is also a powerful gaslighting tool used to deny reality. If you confront them with evidence of a lie, they might act confused by the evidence itself, pretending they don't understand what the text messages mean, or claiming they must have misunderstood the context. They act thick-headed to wear you down. To counter this, stop over-explaining. Do not treat them like a child who needs to be taught. Treat them like an adult who is choosing to be difficult. When they say, "I didn't know," respond with, "You know now, and I expect you not to do it again." Or, "We have discussed this before, so I don't believe that you didn't know. I believe you didn't care." Call out the intelligence they possess in other areas of their life to highlight the discrepancy. "You run a business. I know you are capable of understanding how a clock works." 39. The Victimhood Shield. Pity plays. Pity plays are a manipulative defense mechanism where a narcissist weaponizes their own suffering to escape accountability and control your behavior. Whenever they are backed into a corner, criticized, or asked to take responsibility, they immediately shift the narrative to how hard their life is. They might bring up a traumatic childhood, a crazy ex-partner, a health issue, or a recent stressor to hijack your empathy. The goal is to transform themselves from the aggressor into the victim, forcing you to drop your grievances and comfort them instead. It is a calculated bait and switch. You start the conversation addressing their bad behavior and end it apologizing for your timing. This tactic is particularly effective against empathetic people. The narcissist knows that decent human beings feel guilty kicking someone when they are down, so they make sure they are always down when you have a complaint. If you catch them cheating, they might cry about how insecure and unloved they feel. If they scream at you, they might blame it on their depression or anxiety. While mental health struggles are real, narcissists use them as a get-out-of-jail-free card to excuse abuse. They do not seek healing or change. They seek exemption from the rules. They want you to lower your boundaries and tolerate mistreatment because they can't help it or they are going through so much right now. The danger of pity plays is that they create a one-way street of emotional labor. You are expected to be their therapist and caretaker, while your own needs are neglected because you are the strong one. To break this cycle, you must separate their suffering from their actions. Empathy does not require you to accept abuse. You can say, "I am sorry you are struggling with stress, but that does not give you the right to speak to me that way." Do not let their tears wash away their accountability. Acknowledging their pain should not mean ignoring your own. If they only bring up their hardships when they are in trouble, it is a manipulation tactic, not a cry for help. Stand firm in the fact that having a hard life is not a license to make others' lives miserable. 40. The withholding of heart. Love withdrawal. Love withdrawal is a cruel and punitive manipulation tactic, where a narcissist abruptly removes all affection, warmth, and attention to punish you for misbehavior. It is a form of operant conditioning, similar to how one might train a dog, designed to train you to comply with their demands. One moment, they may be loving and attentive. The next, because you voiced a disagreement, set a boundary, or simply failed to read their mind, they turn into a block of ice. They stop making eye contact, refuse to touch you, speak in a monotone voice, or ignore you completely. This sudden coldness triggers a primal abandonment panic in the victim, making them desperate to restore the emotional bond. The narcissist uses love withdrawal to create an anxious avoidant dynamic. They position themselves as the prize that must be earned, and you as the supplicant who must constantly prove your worth. When they withdraw, they don't tell you why. They want you to agonize over your actions, replay every conversation, and internalize the blame. What did I do wrong? Becomes the soundtrack of your life. Eventually, you learn to suppress your own needs, opinions, and feelings to avoid triggering their cold shoulder. You become a shell of yourself, walking on eggshells, willing to apologize for things you didn't do just to feel the warmth of their love again. This tactic is devastating because it strikes at the heart of human attachment. We are hardwired to seek connection, and when it is severed by a loved one, it causes genuine psychological and physiological distress. The narcissist thrives on this power imbalance. Seeing you beg for their attention validates their superiority. To break free, you must recognize that conditional love is not love. It is control. A healthy partner does not punish you with abandonment when they are upset. They communicate. To counter love withdrawal, you must stop chasing. When they pull away, let them go. Do not beg. Do not apologize to fix it, and do not panic. Focus on your own life and self-soothing. Show them that their withdrawal does not destroy you. I see you need space. I will be here when you are ready to talk like an adult. By refusing to play the game, you neutralize their ability to use affection as a weapon. 41. The fog of war. Creating confusion. Creating confusion is a sophisticated manipulation tactic, where a narcissist deliberately manufactures chaos, inconsistency, and ambiguity to keep you mentally off balance. This technique is designed to dismantle your ability to trust your own judgment, making you increasingly dependent on the manipulator for clarity. Instead of communicating straightforwardly, they deliberately send mixed messages, contradict themselves, and constantly shift the goalposts. The purpose is to exhaust your cognitive resources so that you are too tired to challenge them or recognize the abuse. By keeping the environment murky, they ensure that they remain the only stable reference point in your life, allowing them to dictate reality. At first, the confusion may appear to be a result of poor communication or innocent fickleness. However, you soon notice a pattern. Their words and actions never align. They may act deeply in love, one day then distant and uninterested the next, leaving you reeling and unsure of where you stand. When you ask for clarification, they dodge the question or shift the blame, accusing you of overanalyzing things or being demanding. This is gaslighting through inconsistency. They might encourage you to be independent, only to shame you for not needing them enough when you actually take space. This contradictory behavior creates a double bind where you are wrong no matter what you do, trapping you in a cycle of self-doubt. The psychological impact of this tactic is profound. It creates a state of constant anxiety, known as cognitive dissonance, where your brain struggles to reconcile two opposing realities, e.g., they love me versus they treat me with contempt. Wow. Over time, this erodes your trust in your own memory and instincts. You start looking to them to interpret what is happening because you no longer trust your own perception. They might deny things they previously said or change stories mid-conversation, acting as if past events never happened. This forces you to second-guess everything, wondering if you are the one who is confused. To protect yourself from this manipulation, you must stop trying to make sense of nonsense. Trust your perception and stop looking for consistency where there is none. If someone's words and actions are perpetually out of alignment, recognize that the confusion is not a bug. It is a feature of their control. Do not waste energy trying to decode their mixed signals or begging for clarity they will never provide. If they constantly create uncertainty while positioning themselves as the only source of clarity, it is a trap. Step back, observe the pattern of chaos, and realize that a healthy relationship is built on clarity, not riddles. 42. The smile that bites, mocking. Mocking is a subtle yet deeply damaging manipulation tactic where a narcissist uses sarcasm, ridicule, and belittling humor to undermine your self-esteem while maintaining plausible deniability. Unlike direct insults, which are overtly aggressive and easy to identify, mocking is often disguised as jokes or playful teasing, making it difficult to confront without seeming overly sensitive. The narcissist's goal is to make you feel foolish, small, and insecure, ensuring that they always hold the psychological upper hand in the interaction. By turning your thoughts, feelings, or appearance into a punchline, they invalidate your existence while hiding behind the mask of humor. This tactic often starts gradually. They might imitate the way you talk, roll their eyes when you express an opinion, or use an exaggerated tone to mimic your concerns. If you react with hurt or anger, they immediately gaslight you, saying things like, "Relax, it was just a joke," or "Wow, you're so sensitive." This response invalidates your emotions and shifts the blame onto you for not having a sense of humor, effectively punishing you for standing up for yourself. They may also use mocking to ridicule your beliefs, goals, or emotions, laughing at your ambitions, or calling your ideas cute in a condescending tone. This creates deep self-doubt, causing you to hesitate before speaking or sharing your authentic self. In social settings, mocking becomes a tool for public humiliation. The narcissist might make embarrassing jokes at your expense, or bring up private failures in front of others to lower your status. If you confront them later, they will claim innocence, insisting that everyone else thought it was funny, making you feel isolated and unreasonable. The long-term effect of being mocked is that you start censoring yourself, afraid to express any thought that might be ridiculed. You shrink yourself to avoid their disdain, giving them total control over your self-expression. To counter mocking, you must refuse to play along with their jokes. Do not laugh nervously or try to defend yourself, as this validates their behavior. Instead, call it out directly with a neutral, unamused response. You can say, "That didn't sound like a joke. What are you trying to say?" Or simply, "I don't find that funny." This forces them to either admit their intent or backpedal, stripping away the disguise of humor. Remember, a real joke is meant to connect people. Mocking is meant to divide and conquer. Surround yourself with people who respect you and refuse to tolerate sarcasm used as a weapon. 43. The empty sorry. Fake apologies. Fake apologies are a deceptive manipulation tactic, where a narcissist pretends to take responsibility for their actions without any genuine remorse or intent to change. Instead of truly acknowledging the harm they caused, they use empty words, vague statements, or manipulative phrasing to pacify you and end the conflict. The goal is not to repair the relationship or make amends, but to regain control and avoid consequences. A narcissist views an apology not as an admission of guilt, but as a transaction, a magic word they say to get you off their back so they can continue their behavior. A fake apology often contains shifting blame or conditional language. They might say, "I'm sorry if I hurt you," which implies that the hurt is theoretical, or perhaps your own misinterpretation. Even more common is the phrase, "I'm sorry you took it that way," which translates to, it's your fault for feeling hurt. Other variations include the victim playing apology, I guess I can't do anything right, or the dismissive apology. Fine, I'm sorry. Can we drop it now? These statements are designed to shut you up, not to heal the wound. If you try to discuss the issue further, they become irritated, claiming, I already said sorry. What more do you want? Effectively making you feel guilty for wanting true accountability. In some cases, narcissists use apologies as bait, offering an exaggerated, dramatic display of remorse to lure you back in chill. They might cry, beg, and say, I hate myself for what I did, triggering your empathy and forcing you to comfort them for the pain they caused. However, once the crisis has passed, they slowly slip back into the same toxic patterns. This cycle of hurt, fake apology, and repeat is exhausting and erodes trust. A true apology is followed by changed behavior, whereas a fake one is merely a pause button on the abuse. To deal with fake apologies, you must look at actions, not words. Stop accepting words without actions. If someone repeatedly apologizes for the same behavior but never changes, their apology is a lie. Do not let their performance of remorse sway you. Refuse to engage with the, I'm sorry you feel that way narrative. You can respond with, I appreciate the apology, but I need to see a change in behavior for it to mean anything. If the behavior continues, recognize that the apology was just another tool for control, and stop giving second chances to words that don't come with real change. 44. The impossible standard, demanding perfection. Demanding perfection is a cruel and exhausting manipulation tactic where a narcissist imposes impossible standards on you, ensuring that you can never measure up. By constantly raising the bar, they keep you in a state of perpetual inadequacy, always striving for their approval, but never receiving it. Their goal is to make you feel unworthy and always striving, which secures their position of power and keeps you distracted from their own flaws. No matter how hard you try or how much you achieve, it is never enough. In relationships, this manifests as a demand for you to be flawless in appearance, behavior, and emotional regulation. They might expect you to never get upset, always be available, and anticipate their needs before they even speak them. If you make a small mistake or show human vulnerability, they act deeply disappointed, saying things like, I thought you were different, or I don't know if I can be with someone who can't control their emotions. This conditions you to suppress your authentic self and walk on eggshells, terrified that any slip-up will result in rejection. In the workplace or family dynamics, this can look like a boss or parent who magnifies your mistakes while ignoring your successes, leaving you feeling like a failure despite your best efforts. One of the most toxic aspects of this tactic is the hypocrisy involved. While the narcissist demands perfection from you, they do not hold themselves to the same standards. They are allowed to be messy, rude, late, or emotional, but you are not. If you point out this double standard, they gaslight you, claiming that's different or refusing to explain themselves. This imbalance creates a rigged game where you are constantly working to prove your worth to someone who is committed to misunderstanding you. The relentless criticism erodes your self-esteem, leading you to believe that you aren't good enough. To break free from this trap, you must reject their impossible expectations. Reject their impossible standards and set your own. Recognize that their criticism is a projection of their need for control, not an accurate reflection of your abilities or character. You are allowed to be human, to make mistakes, and to have flaws. True love and leadership do not require perfection. Stop seeking validation from a source that is incapable of giving it. When they criticize you for falling short of an unrealistic goal, remind yourself that the game was designed for you to lose. The strongest response is to embrace your worth, flaws and all, and refuse to apologize for being human. 45. The moving target, shifting goalposts. Shifting goalposts is a relentless manipulation tactic where a narcissist constantly changes their expectations and demands, ensuring that you can never succeed or feel secure in the relationship. Just when you think you have met their criteria or resolved a conflict, they move the target, raise the bar, or change the rules. This tactic traps you in an endless cycle of trying to prove yourself, keeping you exhausted, confused, and desperate for their validation. The narcissist's goal is not to help you improve or to fix the relationship. It is to maintain control by keeping you in a permanent state of failure. At first, their requests might seem reasonable. They might say, "I just need you to communicate better." However, once you make the effort to communicate more, they suddenly pivot and claim you are talking too much, or that you are not being affectionate enough. If you focus on your career to secure your future, they accuse you of neglecting the relationship. If you focus on the relationship, they call you needy or unambitious. No matter what you do, it is never sufficient because the dissatisfaction is internal to them, not a result of your actions. In a work setting, a boss might ask you to meet a deadline, only to demand more work once you finish, saying, "I knew you could do better, so why haven't you done even more?" This emotional whiplash causes deep psychological damage. Over time, you start believing that you are the problem, assuming that if you just tried a little harder, you could finally please them. You become like a greyhound chasing a mechanical rabbit that can never be caught. The constant criticism and changing rules lead to chronic self-doubt, exhaustion, and low self-esteem. You lose sight of your own standards because you are so focused on meeting theirs. To counter shifting goalposts, you must stop playing their game. Recognize that the expectations are unreachable by design. It is not that you are failing. It is that they never intended for you to win. When they change the rules, call it out. You can say, "I met the request you made yesterday. I am not going to chase a new one today." Stop basing your self-worth on their approval. Set your own goals based on what you value and refuse to let someone else dictate your success. If someone makes you feel like you will never be enough, walk away, because the problem is their inability to be satisfied, not your inability to be good enough. 46. The roller coaster. Unpredictability. Unpredictability is a calculated psychological manipulation tactic where a narcissist constantly shifts their mood, behavior, and reactions to keep you emotionally unstable and on high alert. One moment, they are charming, affectionate, and loving. The next, they are distant, cruel, or dismissive without any apparent provocation. This volatile swinging between extremes creates an environment of anxiety and fear, where you feel you must always be on guard to avoid setting them off. By making their reactions impossible to predict, they condition you to hyper-focus on their emotional state, prioritizing their needs above your own sanity. Initially, you might mistake this behavior for natural mood swings or stress. However, you soon realize that their shifts are not random. They are often calculated to punish or control you. For example, they might reward you with warmth when you are compliant, but turn cold, distant, or even hostile the moment you set a boundary or show independence. This inconsistency creates a trauma bond, where you become addicted to the relief of their good moments. You start craving the return of the loving partner, believing that if you just act the right way, you can stabilize them. This is a trap. They control the thermostat of the relationship, and they keep changing the temperature to keep you sick. The impact of living with such unpredictability is that it rewires your brain to live in a state of anxiety. You begin walking on eggshells, second-guessing every word and action, wondering, "Did I say the wrong thing?" This emotional dependence makes you look to them for cues on how to feel, erasing your own autonomy. In professional settings, a boss might praise you one day and berate you the next, ensuring you work harder out of fear. To break free, you must stop trying to predict their moods. Recognize that their behavior is not a reflection of your actions, but a tool for control. If someone is constantly shifting between being kind and cruel, it is intentional manipulation. Do not adjust your behavior to try and manage their emotions. It is a futile task. Instead, step back and observe the pattern. If they punish you with unpredictability whenever you assert yourself, see it for what it is. Stop chasing their approval and focus on your own peace. A healthy relationship provides safety and consistency, not a guessing game. The moment you realize that their unpredictability is a tool for control, you strip them of their power to hurt you. 47. The Lonely Island. Forced isolation. Forced isolation is a deeply insidious and strategic manipulation tactic where a narcissist gradually cuts you off from your support systems to make you entirely dependent on them. This process is rarely sudden. Instead, it happens in subtle, calculated ways, often disguised as love or concern. The narcissist's goal is to remove any outside perspectives that might challenge their control or validate your reality. By severing your ties with friends, family, and colleagues, they ensure that they become the sole influence over your thoughts, emotions, and choices. At first, they might express mild disapproval of your loved ones, saying things like, "I just don't think they have your best interest at heart." They plant seeds of doubt, claiming your friends are jealous, toxic, or secretly trying to sabotage you. They might also sabotage your social life directly by causing unnecessary drama before events, picking fights so you are too exhausted to go out, or being rude to your friends so you stop inviting them. They may use guilt to manipulate you, acting hurt when you spend time away from them. "I guess I'm not important to you anymore." These tactics condition you to believe that maintaining other relationships is a betrayal of your partner. Eventually, you start avoiding your support network just to keep the peace, finding it easier to isolate yourself than to deal with the conflict. Once you are isolated, the narcissist becomes your only source of validation. This creates emotional dependency, making it incredibly difficult to leave or even recognize abuse, because there is no one left to challenge it. You feel alone and convinced that no one else would understand. To counter forced isolation, you must recognize the pattern early. Ask yourself, who benefits from my isolation? Healthy love expands your world. It does not shrink it. If someone forces you to choose between them and your family, they are not protecting you. They are trapping you. Reconnect with your support system, even if you have been distant. Reach out to friends and family, and be honest about your situation. A person who truly cares about you will never make you choose. Resist the urge to withdraw. Maintaining outside connections is your strongest defense against losing your identity and your freedom. 48. The smear campaign. Turning others against you. Turning others against you, often referred to as a smear campaign, is a vicious and calculated manipulation tactic where a narcissist spreads lies, distorts reality, and subtly poisons people's perception of you. The primary goal is to isolate you socially and destroy your credibility so that if you ever speak out about their abuse, no one will believe you. This tactic also serves to protect the narcissist's image. By painting you as the problem, they secure their status as the victim or the good guy in the eyes of mutual acquaintances. This betrayal is often conducted behind your back, leaving you unaware of the damage until your relationships have already turned cold. The narcissist typically starts small, dropping offhand comments to friends or family like, "I love her, but she's been really unstable lately," or "I'm really worried about his mental health." These remarks masquerade as concern, but effectively plant doubt in others' minds. As the campaign escalates, they may fabricate entire stories, claiming you are controlling, abusive, or paranoid. They might say, "I've done everything for them, but they just keep pushing me away," triggering the empathy of listeners. By the time you realize what is happening, friends may be acting distant or treating you with suspicion, having swallowed the narcissist's narrative. This tactic creates a profound sense of isolation, misunderstanding, and betrayal. When you try to defend yourself, The narcissist gaslights you, accusing you of being paranoid or looking for drama, which only reinforces the lies they have told others. The emotional impact is devastating. You may start questioning yourself, wondering if you truly are the problem. This self-doubt is the narcissist's ultimate victory. To protect yourself, stay grounded in your truth. Do not frantically try to convince everyone of your innocence, as this often makes you look defensive and unstable, playing right into the narcissist's hands. Anyone who believes lies about you without hearing your side was never truly on your side. Focus on the few people who genuinely know and trust you. Let your consistent actions speak louder than their fabricated stories. Narcissists thrive on your reaction. By refusing to engage in the drama, you weaken their hold. Remember, the truth always comes out eventually, and maintaining your integrity is the best revenge against a smear campaign. 49. The Whisper Network. Gossiping. Gossiping is a strategic and malicious manipulation tactic where a narcissist spreads lies, half-truths, or distorted stories to systematically dismantle your reputation and social standing. Unlike idle chatter, this form of gossip is deliberate and weaponized. The narcissist's goal is to control how others see you, causing them to doubt your character, judge your actions, or distance themselves from you. By controlling the narrative, they erode your support system and ensure that you have less credibility, making it harder for you to challenge them or find allies. Narcissists rarely begin with obvious attacks. Instead, they use concern as a Trojan horse for their poison. They might say to a mutual friend, "I'm really worried about them. They've been acting so erratic lately," or "It's been really hard dealing with their mood swings." These statements frame the narcissist as the caring, burden party and you as the problem. Over time, the gossip escalates. They might twist your words, exaggerate your reactions, or completely fabricate stories to make you look unstable or cruel. For instance, if you reacted to their abuse with anger, they will tell others, "They completely lost it on me for no reason," conveniently omitting their own provocation. This tactic is dangerous because it happens in the shadows. You may notice people becoming distant, uninterested, or cold, but have no idea why. When you confront the narcissist, they will deny everything, acting shocked or hurt that you would accuse them, perhaps even calling you paranoid. The most damaging aspect is that gossip steals your voice. People form judgments based on lies before you ever get a chance to speak. To counter malicious gossip, stop chasing other people's approval. Understand that people who believe rumors without asking you for the truth are not your friends. Instead of wasting energy trying to correct every false rumor, focus on your actions, live with integrity and consistency. The truth always reveals itself in time, and those who truly value you will see through the manipulation. Do not let the narcissist's whispers define your reality. Walk away from the game and let your character be your defense. 50. The one-way street. Disregarding needs. Disregarding needs is a core characteristic of narcissistic manipulation, manifesting as a relationship where they ignore, dismiss, or minimize what you need emotionally, physically, or mentally. In this dynamic, the relationship is entirely one-sided. Your needs don't matter, but theirs are treated as urgent and non-negotiable. The narcissist views you not as a partner with autonomous desires, but as an extension of themselves, existing solely to serve their comfort and ego. This tactic is designed to make you feel insignificant, undervalued, and emotionally drained while they maintain total control. At first, this selfishness might seem like a quirk or temporary stress. However, it quickly becomes a pattern. If you try to talk about your feelings, they brush them off, change the subject, or act annoyed. Yet when they have a problem, they demand your full attention, acting as if their minor inconvenience is a global crisis. If you are sick or struggling, they might say, "You'll be fine," or complain that your illness is inconveniencing them. This imbalance conditions you to neglect your own well-being to keep the peace. You start apologizing for having needs, suppressing your emotions, and feeling guilty for asking for basic respect. In friendships or workplaces, this looks like a friend who only calls when they need a favor, but is busy when you need to talk, or a boss who expects you to work late constantly, but refuses to acknowledge your effort. The long-term effect is that you internalize the belief that your needs don't matter. This leads to burnout, resentment, and a profound loss of self-worth. To break free, you must start honoring your own needs. Stop waiting for them to give you permission to matter. Self-care is not selfish. It is necessary. If someone refuses to respect your needs but demands you meet theirs, they are using you. Stop over-explaining and stop justifying why you need rest, respect, or support. Start enforcing boundaries. I cannot help you right now. I need to rest. A person who cares about you will respect your limits. A narcissist will hate them. Recognize that a relationship without reciprocity is not a partnership. It is exploitation. 51. The hostage situation. False ultimatums. False ultimatums are a high-stakes form of emotional manipulation where a narcissist threatens to leave, hurt themselves, or take drastic action to force your compliance. Unlike healthy boundaries, which are defensive lines drawn to protect one's well-being, false ultimatums are offensive weapons used as emotional blackmail. The narcissist creates a manufactured crisis to instill a sense of fear, urgency, and guilt, stripping you of your ability to make rational choices. By framing your compliance as the only way to prevent a catastrophe, they force you into submission, making you feel trapped and responsible for the consequences of their volatile reactions. In romantic relationships, these threats often target your deepest fears of abandonment or your empathy. A partner might say, "If you break up with me, I'll have nothing left to live for," or "If you walk out that door, we are done forever." These statements are designed to create an artificial sense of crisis. The underlying message is that you are responsible for their well-being, their emotions, and their actions. If you try to set a reasonable boundary, they escalate the situation to life or death stakes, ensuring that you feel too guilty to follow through. For example, if you refuse to lend them money, they might claim they will end up on the street because of you. If they threaten self-harm, they place the burden on you, implying that any harm that befalls them is the direct result of your refusal to obey. This tactic strips away your personal freedom because you are no longer acting out of love or choice, but out of fear. Over time, living under the constant threat of an ultimatum leads to emotional exhaustion. You begin walking on eggshells, constantly calculating your moves to prevent them from exploding or spiraling. The relationship becomes a hostage situation where the narcissist holds the relationship, or their own safety, at gunpoint to get their way. To break free from this cycle, you must realize that someone who truly values you will not resort to threats to control you. The use of ultimatums is a sign that they value power over partnership. The best way to handle this is to refuse to engage in the emotional blackmail. If they threaten to leave, let them. Call their bluff. If they threaten self-harm, do not try to manage it yourself. Encourage them to seek professional help or call emergency services. By involving professionals, you refuse to take responsibility for their mental health, forcing them to face the reality of their behavior. A person who wants to change will take ownership. A manipulator will only see your boundaries as obstacles. 52. The impossible game. Setting you up to fail. Setting you up to fail is a sadistic manipulation tactic where a narcissist intentionally places you in impossible tasks, unrealistic expectations, or conflicting instructions to ensure your defeat. The objective is not productivity or growth. It is to manufacture a scenario where they can turn around and blame you for not succeeding. By guaranteeing your failure, they keep you in a state of chronic inadequacy, frustrated and dependent on them for validation. No matter how hard you work or how much you sacrifice, they will always find a way to criticize you, ensuring that you never feel competent or secure enough to challenge their authority. This tactic is prevalent in toxic workplaces and abusive relationships. A narcissistic boss might give you an overwhelming workload with impossible deadlines, only to act disappointed and say, "I really thought you could handle this," when you inevitably fall behind. In a romantic partnership, the narcissist might demand that you be available 24/7 while simultaneously expecting you to be independent and successful. The moment you express exhaustion, they weaponize it against you, claiming, "I don't ask for much, but you always let me down." This creates a toxic cycle where you double your efforts to prove your worth, but they simply move the goalposts or find a reason to criticize, ensuring you never reach the finish line. The psychological impact of being set up to fail is the erosion of self-efficacy. When every effort is met with criticism, you start to believe that you really are incompetent. You stop questioning the unfairness of the expectations and start blaming yourself, thinking, "Maybe I really am the problem." This self-doubt creates a toxic cycle where you are too busy scrambling to please them to realize the game is rigged. They maintain control, because a person who feels powerless and incapable is easier to manipulate than one who recognizes their own strengths. To counter this tactic, you must recognize when the expectations being placed on you are unreasonable. Step back and objectively assess the situation. Are the rules fair? Are the expectations realistic? If the answer is no, realize that the problem is not your effort, it is the manipulation itself. Do not internalize the blame for failing a test that was designed to be unpassable. Refuse to engage in their impossible game. Whoa, right. State clearly what is realistic and stick to it. A person who truly values you will set clear, realistic, and fair expectations, rather than using your inevitable failure as a weapon to humiliate and control you. Stop running on their hamster wheel. You will never get anywhere because they don't want you to.